From the giant cliffhanger in Season 6 that no one liked, to a fan-favorite character shockingly switching sides in Season 8, here are some moments from The Walking Dead that made fans furious. Now, there's nothing that makes these people angrier than watching a whole season only to see the finale end on a giant cliffhanger. That's exactly what happened in Season 6. Its season finale, Last Day on Earth, has become one of the most talked about episodes of the show. Notice how I say talked about and not popular? Well, because people were talking about it just for all the wrong reasons. Season 6 had been leading up to the finale with a series of episodes showing our faves fighting with another sect of survivors called the Saviors. And I'm sure you all remember how that went down. Well, after many episodes had built up this tension, everyone was eagerly waiting to see how it all came together in the end. In the last few minutes of the season finale, we see the introduction of the Saviors' leader, Negan. This guy captures Maggie, Michonne, Rick, and Glenn along with many others. And we even see him brutally kill one of them with his baseball bat. Only we don't see who he kills off. Of course, such an overly dramatic ending wasn't gonna sit right with anyone. Not the critics, and definitely not the fans. Reporters called it dirt stupid, and fans took all their rage to social media, calling this finale the worst ever episode from the series. People were frustrated, and rightfully so. Things got so bad that the showrunner Scott M. Gimple felt the need to speak to the press, assuring fans of a solid story in Season 7. That wasn't too reassuring, but it gave fans some hope, and the anticipation to see Season 7 only grew. Unfortunately though, the Season 7 premiere was just as bad, if not worse. After months and months of taking Gimple up on his word and keeping everything on hold to watch the Season 7 premiere episode, fans were certainly disappointed with what they saw, not to mention absolutely devastated. Viewers were dying to see which one of their faves had suffered Negan's fatal blow, and that ended up being Abraham, which crushed everyone. But they always knew that someone had to die. They'd already prepared for it. But as sad as that was, the show wasn't done here. After watching Negan kill their friend, Rick and the rest of the gang get really riled up, and in response, Daryl lashes out and punches the murderer. But this murderer shows that he's not to be messed with. He decides to punish the group for this little display of aggression by brutally killing Glenn. And this death was no ordinary one. It was extremely gory for no reason at all. Not to mention how many fans were fuming about how eerily similar this was to the murder of Vincent Chin, a Chinese-American man who was beaten to death in Michigan in 1982. If that's what the showrunners had in mind, then that's extremely problematic. But all that aside, there's no denying that Glenn was always one of the top fan-favorite characters, and his death would have always caused some kind of backlash, no matter how it was done. But showing it in this way was simply too much. Fans took to Twitter saying they simply stopped watching the show after this episode. And can you blame them? Besides, wasn't Glenn's fake death in Season 6 enough trauma already? Honestly, by now I think it's safe to say that Season 6 gave us many trauma-inducing moments, but few of them enraged me as much as the third episode, where Glenn apparently dies, only to not die? Toward the end of the third episode, fans are horrified to see Glenn trapped in an alley with Nicholas, with an entire herd of walkers headed toward them. They jump on a dumpster to avoid the dead, only for Nicholas to decide that ending his life is better than fighting these things off. But wait, where's the fun in going down alone? No, Nick just had to take Glenn down with him into the group of death. Here, the scene sort of pans out to capture the whole crowd, and at one point all we can see is a body being torn apart without much info on who it belongs to. Many fans quickly jumped to their theories, saying that Glenn had obviously died. And why wouldn't they? If you've watched this show through Season 6, you'd know how unlikely it is for someone to survive this kind of attack, especially when all they're wearing is a t-shirt for protection. Fortunately for the fans, and unfortunately for their tempers, Glenn's death ended up being a fake-out, one that fans had to wait for 3 more episodes to finally find out. It seems that Glenn had hidden under the dumpster and miraculously survived, which, aside from making no sense, also contributed nothing to the plot. Like, am I watching The Walking Dead or Days of Our Lives here? Fake deaths? Seriously? As if the real ones weren't bad enough. I'm talking about how this series is always killing off its LGBT LGBTQ+ characters, what many also refer to as a show burying its gays. Now, everyone knows that anyone can die at any time in this universe, but that doesn't mean that these deaths won't hurt. It's obviously worse when an LGBTQ+ character dies, but it's not like we've got much representation of them anyway. And when a show excessively kills off these characters, it falls into the classic burying your gays trope. The Walking Dead, unfortunately, seems to love this trope, whether it be the deaths of Tara and Jesus during Season 9, or the demise of Denise in the middle of Season 6. Fans have had enough now. The show may try to defend itself by saying that it's added more LGBTQ+ characters too, but I think everyone here can agree that replacing them like this only makes it worse. So yeah, these 3 moments have only aggravated fans further, and many have even boycotted the show after Season 9's atrocities. But since we're on the topic of death, we can't complete this video without Rick's fake-out death moment. What even was that? Everyone knows that people in the show will die sooner or later, but like any other show, you'd expect that at least the literal main character would remain safe, right? So it was shocking to learn that Season 9's 5th episode would be Rick's final episode for the show, indicating that he's probably going to die since that's what happens when a character leaves this show. In episode 5, you see Rick exploding a bridge in an attempt to save the survivors from another group of survivors, and fans assume that Rick died in that explosion. And as sad as it was, we'd been warned before, so we moved on. But the end of the episode revealed that AMC pranked us. Yeah, Mr. Grimes was found alive at the end of that same episode, and later Andrew Lincoln announced that he'd star as Rick in the Walking Dead movies. Now, this makes the whole announcement thing look like nothing more than a cheap ploy for more publicity and drama, and fans were just done with this fake dying trope at this point. They're not shocked anymore, and they're certainly not happy. Of course, character deaths, or the lack thereof, aren't the only moments making fans unhappy with this post-apocalyptic series. Some anger is targeted toward the editing as well, like that absurd fake CGI deer moment. This series may have once been revered for portraying super convincing zombies, not to mention the very realistic yet gory violence. But this one special effect in Season 7, Episode 12 just didn't meet those same standards. The episode explores the relationship between Rick and Michonne, as they fend off walkers and try to look for food and other resources. In that, Rick ends up spotting a live deer, and that leads to a whole bunch of events in which the animal appears multiple times. The events aren't important here, it's the shots of that CGI deer and how obviously fake they are that matter. Of course, shooting a real deer was obviously going to be impossible here because they're always moving, but the CGI replacement was just so bad. It honestly had the fans more shocked than angry, and saying that these special effects left a long-lasting impact on fans would be a massive understatement. But coming back to the story-based moments now, perhaps nothing was as frustrating as the Season 8 finale. There's probably no other Walking Dead episode that was as divisive as this one. The conflict between Rick's group and the Saviors has finally reached its epic conclusion, and Rick successfully overwhelms Negan following what could have been one of the top showdown moments of the show. Emphasis on could have, please, since this showdown's ending left everyone extremely disappointed. You'd expect Rick to kill Negan instantly on the spot, but he decides to have mercy on him. Our main guy instead takes him as a prisoner. While people like Michonne support his decision, Maggie isn't having any of it. Daryl and Jesus are right there with her, and so are many bloodthirsty fans who just want to see justice served. But more than that, many fans don't understand how Rick takes this 180 shift right after almost killing the guy. Like, make it make sense, right? Where was the build-up to this all-new merciful Rick? Nowhere. So, from the frustrating Season 8 finale that divided characters into opposing groups, to the annoying cliffhanger ending in Season 6, these were 6 moments from The Walking Dead that made fans very angry.